First of all, it's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you guys for conducting this. And I spent 4 years as a precinct committeeman in the old LD28, and I've worked from the grassroots. I've worked for 7 presidential campaigns, countless gubernatorial campaigns and congressional campaigns. And it is a real privilege and honor to be here tonight. And when you do these forums, I can tell you one thing. We all know what we're going to say for our statements. And they're probably sick and tired of hearing about my poor grandmother who's no longer with me. But I think it's very important for people to really understand where a person has been. And my grandmother, she raised me as a small baby. And it was in an area that was complete with drugs, gangs, and violence. And every night she would say to me, "Would you read the Bible to me?" And I would always wonder why she was asking me. And it was because she could not read. And she would always tell me, she would say, "I want something better for you than for what I had." And to her, that was the American dream. And I'll never forget the day when I received my letter of acceptance to Georgetown University's law school. And I didn't have the money to go. And she said, "Sweetheart, we can do it." And at 75 years of age, she started cleaning homes again to help get me through. And to her, that was the American dream. And when I graduated from Georgetown, and I was the editor-in-chief of one of the journals, and to her, that was the American dream. And when I served the first President Bush, George H.W. Bush, as a special assistant in the White House, to her, again, that was the American dream, because she never dreamt that she would have a child, no less a grandchild, who could work as a special assistant to the President of the United States. And when I was unanimously confirmed by the United States Senate as an assistant secretary, again, to her, that was the American dream. And I became the mayor of the great town of Paradise Valley, which we're in right now. To her, again, that was the American dream. And that was the American dream because it was something better than what she had in her life. And that is the dream that we should all have for future generations. And that is the reason why I chose to run again, because I have an 18-year-old son right now. He just graduated from Brophy, and he will not have that same dream, or he will not have the same possibility to inherit or to be what he wants to be, because we have a president today who has said to the American people that Obamacare is not a tax, but it will result in the highest tax in civilization. We have a president today who has said that we would like to drive jobs away from America because we have the highest corporate income tax in the world. And we have a president today who has said, never before in American history have we had a president to say that if you hire more than 50 people, that you will be penalized and we will stop job growth in this country. And we must protect the American dream. Obamacare is nothing more than protecting freedom. And we must protect the American dream. We must protect future generations. And I pledge to you tonight that I will stand firm to protect freedom, to protect your rights, and to protect the future generations of this country. And my name is Vernon Parker, and I would love your support. Thank you. Travis Graham.
I want to thank LD28 and thank everybody for attending tonight. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Short introductions, because we've all given our stump speech 100 times. I think I spoke to most of the people in this crowd, but I don't know. Maybe you all need to hear a little bit more about me, where I come from. But, you know, I'm Travis Graham. I'm a constitutional conservative Republican. I'm running for Congress in the new CD9. I'm a third-generation Arizonan. I'm a husband, a father, a business owner, and a pilot and officer in the Arizona Air National Guard. I served in the Guard unit that Perry Goldwater founded in the 1940s at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, and I fly a KC-135 there. I've been there for 13 years. We always get asked the question, why are we running? That's really what this discussion comes down to. What's motivated us to get up here and run for this office? We are $16 trillion in debt. David put it very well. It is the biggest threat to our national defense. It's the biggest threat to our republic. You could combine China and Syria and Iran, and the debt poses a bigger threat. We have a stagnant economy, a bureaucratic nightmare in this country. We heard a lot of great responses in the last session of how much of our federal bureaucracy is completely out of control. You know, I've run a business for the last 10 years in one of the most heavily regulated sectors of our economy, the aviation business. It's preventing me from doing what I would do best, which is create jobs. It's preventing friends and competitors of mine from creating jobs. And I'm sure it's affecting a lot of you in this audience the same exact way. We have a fiscal crisis in this nation. And I've been saying that everywhere I go and speak, talking about this debt. This debt that's so large, it's growing by 6% per year, where our economy grows at 3% per year. We're spending 40% more than we take into this country. And now I can officially say we have a constitutional crisis. And as everybody saw this last week, the Supreme Court is not our safe haven. It is not what's going to fix the problems of this nation. Representatives of this republic are going to have to go to Washington, D.C. and fix and save this country. It's an honor to be here. I look forward to answering the questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Travis. Leah Campbell-Schandebauer.
Thank you. My name is Leah Campbell-Schandebauer, and I'm very happy to be here, so thank you for having me. I recently left a career at the Central Intelligence Agency to make this run for Congress. And, well, you know, I served for over a decade as an operations officer in the clandestine service of the CIA, working and living abroad undercover, collecting intelligence and running operations. And I held that position because I feel passionately about the security of our country, and I thought that that was the best way for me to do my part for the security of our country. But over the last 3.5 years or so, I began to think differently about how I could help this country. And the reason for that is because I began to hear, coming out of Washington, the same type of class warfare rhetoric that I had grown accustomed to hearing abroad, out of the mouths of tin-horn dictators like Hugo Chavez or populists like Cristina Kirchner in Argentina. And, you know, with that rhetoric, or through that rhetoric, it became clear to me that President Obama and his friends in the Democrat Party were intent on taking our country down a path toward a European-style social democracy, a system that I believe offers citizens nothing but learned helplessness, and we have the example unfolding in Europe right now. In stark contrast to a true free enterprise system that I believe is the only system that truly uplifts the human spirit by giving every citizen the real dignity of earning, defining, and using your God-given talents to reach whatever you determine success to be. So I also began to see the political class in Washington was incapable of coming up with new ideas to get us out of a partisan rut. And our conservative friends were not really making the rousing defense of the old ideas upon which this country was founded that I think we need right now. So I decided that I was going to offer something different. And I'm centering my campaign, therefore, on a full-throated defense of the morality of the free enterprise system. Because I believe truly that that is the only system that is going to get us out of the current economic and cultural slump we find ourselves in. So a little bit of background on me. I'm a wife and mother of 4 children. My husband Alfred is currently serving in Afghanistan, where he will be until May of next year. I come from a military family. My father enlisted in the U.S. Air Force at a young age and left his hometown of Superior, Arizona, to serve in the Air Force for almost 30 years, taking my family all over the world, and then back here to Arizona, where I grew up from junior high all the way through my days at ASU. And I just want to end with one thought, and it's not original to me. Ronald Reagan once said, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said, you know, our freedom and our liberty are always just one generation away from extinction. We don't pass it to our children through our bloodlines. We have to fight for it, and we have to defend it. So if I'm elected to be your congressperson here in the 9th District, I can promise you that I will spend my time and my votes defending our liberty and our economic freedom. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Thompson. I appreciate all of you taking the time out of your busy schedule on this 4th of July week to come here tonight. It shows that you do have a true commitment for making sure that we make the right choice towards fixing what's wrong with our country right now. I'm the non-politician in the group. I've never been in politics. I've never had political aspirations. I moved to Arizona 31 years ago. I lived in Ahwatukee. My wife here in the second row. We've been married for 36 years. We've raised 3 children in Arizona. They're all responsible adults, and I'm proud of that. But I'm from the world of finance, 25 years. I retired 7 years ago at age 54 from the financial world. And typically we've spent our summers in Flagstaff. But that changed this summer. And I think of a quote from Thomas Jefferson. I've always been a little fascinated with Thomas Jefferson because when I was a young student and we talked about him, the teacher made a point to say, gosh, your name is Jeff Thompson. Kind of the opposite of Thomas Jefferson. So it was a little special. But Thomas Jefferson has a quote that really is why I got into this race. And he said this. He said, tyranny gets a strong foothold when people of good conscience remain silent. That's what we're up against right now. I'm not going to tell you any more about the problems we have. You've heard about them. You've heard from our prior 2 candidates that spoke. There's lots of problems. The key is, who's solution-oriented? Who's the person that you're going to send back there that says, hey, I know we got a bad hand. We're dealt a tough hand right now. What are we going to do? For all of you, you've got to kind of do what we're doing, and that's get out and talk to people. You need to have dialogue with people because it's critical that we make sure Obama does not get reelected. There's going to be 3 Supreme Court justices probably retired during the next presidency. And we already know what they're thinking right now. And whether you like what they said or whether you didn't like what they said this past week, that's the hand we're dealt. What are we going to do? I got a kick out of hearing the prior 2 candidates talk. And they said on the first day, after someone gets elected, they're thinking, how do I get reelected? And I know that's true. But I got to tell you, from the business world, it doesn't seem that complicated to me because I think of things differently. It'd be real easy for me to say, hey, let's hold Congress accountable. And if Congress can't come in under budget, well, then they need to take a 20% pay cut, just like you do in the private sector. And you know what? If they can't come in under budget for a couple years in a row, they're not eligible to run anymore. Let's get somebody different in to replace them. We need to have accountability to the taxpayers. And one of the candidates said it before, and he's so right. We do not have a tax problem in this country. Taxing treats the symptom to the problem. The problem is a spending problem. And Congress has failed the American people with the way they've spent, but they have no accountability. And what I just proposed gives them instant accountability, because I'll tell you something right now. If you want to see Nancy Pelosi reach across the aisle, cut her pay 20% next year. And tell her we're going to cut it another 20%, and if you don't get it done after that, goodbye. It's time we treat them just like you'd be treated in business. You would never allow your business to continue to go in debt and to have bad people working for them. And I'll close with one other thing. It's Bain Capital. And Democrats and liberals have criticized Bain Capital and said, hey, you know, you guys put people out of work, you close down plants. Well, 78% of the companies they took over have succeeded, 22 failed. We need a Bain Capital takeover of the federal government, because when Bain Capital comes in, the first thing they do is they get rid of the leader. The second thing they do is they restructure the debt, and they try to reduce the spending and make the company profitable, get rid of the board of directors. We need that with the federal government. We need to take some people back there that are business-oriented, that have a successful past, that are willing to draw a line in the sand. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be here tonight. I'm retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Wendy Rogers. I have worshiped here in this sanctuary. Dear friends of ours, Kurt and Susie Richardson, are missionaries of yours, and Susie stays with us every spring when they come back to visit family. Shout out to son Alex out there. What a blessing it is to be here. What a blessing it is to be an American, especially for me, an American woman, and for Leah too. We've talked about this. Why am I running? I made a promise. I made a promise to my father, a fourth-generation military officer, in February, before he passed away at age 90, as a World War II veteran and a Korean War veteran, that I would honor him. And I would honor him with this run for Congress. I'm his only daughter, and I would make him proud and dedicate this campaign to his legacy. I made a promise to my husband, sitting in the third row, Hal, 34 years ago when I married him. I made a promise to our two children, who are 24 and 21 years old, that we would raise them right and as upstanding Christians. I made a promise to the 14 employees that we meet a payroll for in District 9, Housemaster home inspections. I made a promise to them that I would not lay any one of them off due to no work, and thus we have never laid any one of them off. And everyone up here can tell you, legitimately and fervently and passionately, that he or she will reduce the deficit, cut spending, reduce taxes, get government out of the way so that we, who are business owners, can create more jobs. I will tell you, however, what makes me different, and that is that I made a promise. I don't make a promise unless I can keep a promise. And as one of the first women pilots in the Air Force, and when I took the oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, I kept my promise. And by the way, when I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force in 1976 from Michigan State University, there were only 18 of us in our ROTC class from a campus of 50,000 students. So I don't do what's popular. I do what's right. And you have my honest and my passionate commitment to work hard for you. Those of you who know me know that when I ran for the state legislature and narrowly lost in Tempe, I rode my bicycle to 10,000 homes and knocked on those doors. So you have my commitment that no one will work harder and serve you in a more detailed or diligent way than I will as your Congresswoman. I live in District 9. I own a business in District 9. I meet a payroll in District 9 and have lived there and raised my children in District 9 for the past 15 years. It is where we settled when I retired from the Air Force. Both Hal and I retired from the Air Force. And it wouldn't be running unless I lived in District 9. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's so nice to see a few familiar faces. Since I live south of the Salt River, I think I'll tell you about myself and my family. I'm Martin Sepulveda. I'm running for Congress in District 9 because it's my home. I was raised here. My family's been part of this community since the 1870s when they homesteaded in Tempe at Rural University. I graduated from Arizona State. I met my wife there. We raised our family in Chandler. I started my business in Chandler. I was elected twice to 2 non-consecutive terms to the City Council. I'm a military guy. I enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 17. I'm now 52 and a commander in the Navy Reserves. I'm still in the active reserves. My current assignment is with SEAL Team 17 in Coronado. I'm a combat vet. I've seen some of the best and the worst that happens in the army. And each time I've come back to Arizona, I've vowed whatever I could to make my home a better place. Like all of us up here and all you listening tonight. I care deeply about this community, our state, and our nation. I'm a small business owner. I've had my company for about 12 years. Before that, I worked for a very large construction company, McCarthy, in Phoenix. Before that, I worked for the Arizona Department of Commerce. I've got over 20 years of experience, just under 25 years of experience in both public and private sector development. My biggest takeaway is this. Government doesn't create jobs. The best it can do is create a reasonable regulatory environment, a predictable and competitive tax environment, and get out of the way. Let the private sector do what it does best, create jobs, create wealth. The 2 terms I served in the Chandler City Council, they're not consecutive terms. I tell you that because they're like 2 separate tours of duty. I'm not a career politician. But I'll also say that those are valuable times for me because they enable me to act and interact with people elected me to serve them. They also care about their community, how their tax dollars are being spent, what our priorities were. Those 8 years, we balanced every budget, we had cash reserves, we even lowered taxes. Those budgets ranged from just about $500 million in the late 90s to over $1 billion in 2007, 2008, which was the last budget I was a part of. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that we're fiscally conservative in Chandler, Arizona. They continue to prosper. The other thing I'm proud about is the fact that we engaged the private sector. During my first term on the Chandler City Council, Intel made their first expansion, about $2 billion and about 1,800 jobs. They're still expanding today. Their last expansion is about $5 billion, 1,000 jobs. Their total investment in Chandler, Arizona is over $16 billion. A lot of that's because the elected body engaged the private sector. Not so that they create jobs, but they asked the question, what can we do to make your investment better? It worked. Our campaign is focused on 2 major areas, jobs and economy and debt deficit spending. The experience I've had in the past 20, 25 years, I want to bring that to bear. About a month ago, we released a 5-point jobs creation plan. And so I just like to go over 3 of the top bullets in that plan. The first was corporate income tax. We're not competitive. We need to reduce the corporate income tax to become competitive. There's a reason these manufacturers left the country and went offshore. We have to reduce the regulatory environment. Probably the best example right now, to steal a phrase from Mr. Obama, is our shovel-ready projects. That's the Keystone XL pipeline. It's being held up because of environmental regulations. One last environmental permit is being held hostage because the Obama administration's left-wing environmental agenda. It's not working. And the insanity of that is that we have capital investment ready to go right now, jobs that could be created right now, and once that happens, guess what else happens? We'd be that much less dependent on Middle Eastern oil. It's insane. The third part of our plan really deals with the eliminating tax on the middle class, investment, interest, dividends, and capital gains. Why the middle class? Well, 2/3 of small businesses created, actually 2/3 of jobs created in the last 17 years were created by small business in the middle class. It's important to do that. Lastly, debt deficit spending. This past December, for the first time since World War II, our debt exceeded our GDP. Unacceptable. Now there's talk about another stimulus package, perhaps raising the debt ceiling one more time. Those 2 proposals are as dangerous as they are idiotic. I will tell you that a president of the Congress who fails to deal with debt deficit spending is more dangerous to our sovereignty as a nation than any foreign military. I thank you for your time. I look forward to the discussion tonight.
Thanks to all the candidates, and what I'm going to do is ask a question. There'll be different questions for each candidate. We'll try to get as many questions as we can. All the questions came from the audience or were written into the officers of LD28. So first will be Colonel Parker. How do you propose to keep us from the financial cliff facing us on January 2013? Do you think the federal income tax system is in need of reform? If so, how, including the debt?
Well, without a doubt, we have a huge problem in the United States. We do create jobs, okay? Our government creates jobs, but they create jobs in China, in India, in Mexico, in Canada. And the reason why they do this is because we have the highest corporate income tax in the world. When you have a country like Canada who is reducing their corporate income tax, guess what? Corporations are flocking there. In order to create wealth in this country, in order to get people back to work, we must be realistic and say that we cannot compete globally unless we address something that's very simple. That's the corporate income tax. And what people don't realize is this. I worked in Washington, D.C., and I saw it all the time, you guys. We have mindless bureaucrats sitting there, unelected officials creating regulations, rules and regulations that stifle the growth of business. And I will tell you this also. Congress must do something. Whenever you have a regulation or whenever you have a regulation that has the effect of a law, Congress should review it. But the biggest travesty that we have that will hurt America and hurt the growth of our economy, I saw it on Sunday. I was in Chandler. I visited a car manufacturer who produces a small volume of cars. And I said, this is such a fabulous opportunity that we have for jobs. And he told me, no, I'm going to move to Botswana or I'm going to move to China. And I said, why? He said, because I cannot compete with the regulations that we have in this country. And I asked him one question. I said, so what are you going to do about Obamacare? How many employees do you have? He said, 60. So I said, well, what does that mean to you? He goes, I have to get rid of 10 people. And where do they go? They go to public assistance. Since 2007, you guys, there's been a 70% increase of people on food stamps. 45 million Americans. And since Barack Obama took office, we've had 5.4 million people leave the workforce. And hopefully in November, it will be 5.4 and 1.
Thank you. This is but keep your answers to a minute and a half. I appreciate it, so we can get through a lot of
For this round, it's going to be really different.
I know. This is for Travis Grantham. Why don't we authorize more H-1B visas?
Well, first I got to address Vernon continuing to use the word travesty. I want to know everybody I can pay a chance at. And I prefer abomination. But our system's broken. We heard it in the last discussion. You know, we have an immigration system in this country that, quite frankly, was written well. Our border is not secure. Therefore, our immigration system is failed to operate correctly. It comes down to quality versus quantity. We should be admitting folks into this country on work visas who can add to our economy, can actually help the folks that need that labor. Today I sat down for lunch with United Dairymen of Arizona. I mean, there's an organization that's headquartered in Tempe. There's a lot of dairies in this state. Right now, they don't have the labor to successfully milk their cows. And they're having to take political refugees from nations that are at war, where the U.S. government is allowing these individuals to come to the United States for a short period of time and utilize that as labor. The reason behind not issuing enough visas, quite honestly, I wish I knew. But I know partially because the system's not working as it was designed.
Thank you. Next one's for Leah. Congress has proven that regulating the biggest banks is beyond its ability. Do you think you have the skills to actually help in this area? Congress has proven that regulating the biggest banks is beyond its ability. Which of you, do you think you have the skills that actually help in this area?
Well, I mean, banking regulation is incredibly complex, so I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you that I understand Dodd-Frank, but I can assure you that nobody else in Congress does either, and therein lies the problem. We need to simplify these regulations as much as we can, and I hope if I'm on financial services, I hope that I am surrounded by people who will walk me and my colleagues through every single detail of every single bill before we pass it, rather than passing bills that we don't understand and they end up complicating and causing adverse effects to our banking industry and to our economy on a whole.
Thank you. The next is for Jeff Thompson. How do you feel about a constitutional amendment clarifying Section 1 of the 14th Amendment requiring at least one parent to be a U.S. citizen before granting citizenship to someone merely for being born inside our borders?
We allow 1 million people to come into this country approximately every year legally. They get in line, they do everything right. We have another 3.5 million people that come into this country either with work visas, visas to attend our universities. And I realize there are certain situations where companies like Microsoft have lobbied hard because they have specialized workers that need to come into this country. And we need to explore and allow that. But I'm going to tell you something. When you saw what happened with 1070, when you saw what the White House did with gay marriage, these are nothing more than diversions to get off track from what's going on economically. Because if everyone starts to pay attention to the fact that we're riding this bus pretty fast rate of speed heading for a cliff, and he's done a marvelous job at diverting everyone's attention. For the next 2 weeks, that's all the people in the media talk about is gay marriage. And now, all they're talking about is immigration. I'm a firm believer in we have laws. And we need to respect the laws and abide by the laws. And if we feel that the laws aren't right, then we can change them. But I'm going to tell you from day one, immigration is only about one thing to the administration, and that's more Democratic voters. That's all it is. They don't care anything about those people, and the cost of illegal immigration is approaching $1 trillion. We spend $12 billion a year on educating illegals. We spend $90 billion a year on social service programs for illegals. 30% of our federal prisons are occupied by illegals. It's $3 million a day it costs us. So when you start talking about immigration, you have to really look at the underlying reasons that this is going on. They're trying to create a diversion, number one, and if they can pull it off, they get more Democratic voters. We're at a critical time in this country, as I said before, and we cannot allow more people to come in here and take part in our welfare system. So if anybody did come in here to this country, and if we were to approve it, I would say a few things. Number one, if they come in here, they better not have a criminal record. Number two, they better have their own health insurance that they pay for, and they should have car insurance and some life insurance and a bank account with an American bank that they're paying money in, and they should not be part of our welfare system at all. And then they should be charged a fee that is going to cost the federal government to process them. The American taxpayer should not have to pay that anymore. They pay too much, and the burden keeps falling on all the people doing things right to pay for all the people that are breaking our laws and doing things wrong.
Time. Next question is for Wendy Rogers. As proposed, explain why members of Congress are not participating in the mandated health care coverage of Obamacare. Why would any member of Congress pass any law in which they would be exempt?
That's a great question. Personally, I participate with the Veterans Administration medical system. Anybody out there use the VA lately? Not a great system, is it? You don't get seen very quickly, and their system is reactive instead of proactive. I use Tri-West Healthcare Alliance as my primary provider. Scott Seeley can tell you that that contract did not get renewed. One of the finest HMOs going for the military families like mine. You have to earn your health care. You can't just walk into a Cadillac system when everybody else like us either doesn't have health care or is flailing. What about the Obamacare tax? That's what I thought you would ask me about. That's something that I will go to Congress and help to repeal. What shall we replace it with? Incentivizing good health care choices, number one. Medical savings accounts, number two. the ability to purchase health insurance across state lines, which, oh my gosh, injects competition, the C word. And what about small business owners like me who could band together with other small business owners and have pools so that, again, you would have synergy and you would have competition? Those are viable options to the Obamacare tax. And so to answer your question, I think Congress members need to feel the pain that the rest of us have to feel, and to have to enter into a program that has to compete as the rest of us do.
Next question from Martin. Why not resurrect Glass-Steagall to cure the banking mess? In the opinion of the question asker, it worked for 67 years.
You know, I really didn't hear the question.
I'm sorry.
Away from your mouth. There you go.
The question is, why not resurrect Glass-Steagall to cure the banking mess? It worked for 67 years.
So the banking mess is what you're talking about.
Yes.
I'm not sure there's a one silver bullet solution out there. You know, all the special interests have really got sucked into a lot of decisions, whether it's this banking crisis or any other crisis. One thing I would say is this. My priority is a balanced budget. There's a lot of things that are very important, but I don't want to get sucked into the Obama narrative right now. There's a crisis. There's a lot of crises. We can pick and choose. But right now, the focus of my campaign, the reason I'm in this race, is to try and bring to bear my 25 years, just about 25 years of experience in the public and private sector with common sense solutions. The banking crisis, okay, great. How about the healthcare crisis? How about the crisis with sequestration? I mean, we could pick and choose those. You know, I mean, there's some brilliant minds out there, but I think at the end of the day, whether it's, you know, the congressman not taking or partaking in the Obamacare, that's unacceptable. To pass laws that don't apply to people who pass laws, that's unacceptable. We're going broke. You know, to take the pension that they take, platinum-plated pension. I'm not in this for the pension. I'm not going to take the pension. There's a lot of things we can talk about, but I don't want to get sucked into the narrative that's being put out there. I want to focus on the ball. Right now, in my opinion, it's jobs and economy, debt spending. So certainly the banking crisis is very important, but again, we bailed it out. Gee, is that the solution again? Don't know. Don't know. Where I want to focus on is jobs and economy, debt spending. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Vernon Parker. It's actually a repeat. What three things do you believe we should be doing right now at the federal level to address high unemployment?
I think I answered that in the first question, but I'll take another crack at, which is very simple, is that, first of all, the government does not create jobs, and the government should not be in the business of creating jobs. But the government should not be in the business of preventing small business and preventing Americans from creating jobs. And the government has done that. They've done that because of, once again, the high corporate income tax rate that we have, that the highest corporate income tax in the world. Now we have the highest tax increase in the history of civilization, which is the Obama, what is that called? Affordable care, which I call an oxymoron, because it's not affordable. And the other thing that I really do believe that stifles job creation once again is mindless bureaucrats. You know, they're very nice people, but they're not elected officials. They are passing regulations that have the effect of law. And that stifles business. So, in order to get the economy back on track and get the American people back to work, we must take bold steps and to say that in order to be competitive, that we are going to address those three issues.
Thank you. For Travis Grantham, the question is: are you for or against the Volk-Simpson Commission recommendations, and why?
I was for it because that would actually help the crisis we have going on in Washington, D.C. You know, our fiscal system is a disaster. Our banking system is not working. I was for it.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for Leah. Do you believe we need tort reform, and if so, what steps would you take to ensure that this occurs?
I think certainly, as we're talking so much this week about the problems in our healthcare system, mainly associated with the high costs of healthcare in this country, we absolutely need tort reform. I'm not sure exactly what steps we need to take to achieve tort reform. It needs to be something that has to be discussed at the congressional level for sure. And I think that's a big component to reducing the costs in healthcare.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for Jeff Thompson. It's been asked already, but I'd like for you to answer the Keystone XL Pipeline mortgage.
I'd be happy to talk about tort reform. I know quite a bit about it.
Okay.
Tort reform is the single most expensive piece of health insurance. I was in that business for 25 years, and here's the real problem with it. Doctors pay 25 to 35% of their revenue in malpractice insurance, and when you go in and see a doctor, they could probably diagnose your illness with 2 or 3 tests, but they don't. They run the whole battery of tests. They have to. Because if they miss on 1 in 10,000 patients, and they get sued and it goes to court, that attorney gets them in the courtroom and says, why didn't you run this 1 test? You missed it. You only ran these 2. They're scared to death of getting sued. Their malpractice goes up, so they run the whole battery. When you can only run 2 tests and you run 12 tests, think of the difference in the cost. It's huge. You know who pays it? All of us. It drives the insurance premium sky high. Obamacare does not touch tort reform. He's an attorney. We don't need any more attorneys in Washington, D.C.
Hey.
I agree.
Now, there's portability issues. He's an attorney. There's portability issues, and that can be fixed because that cost is already built into the morbidity cost. I know that business inside out, and if I go back there, I can play an integral role in fixing our healthcare system because I'm going to have a 0 learning curve on it. I know more about healthcare than 99% of people in Washington, D.C. And I can go back there and I can help put that together and make it affordable and to make it palatable. But right now, folks, we got to deal with the hand dealt. You know what? If Obama gets reelected, this thing might get shoved down our throat. We got to get him out of office.
Can I answer that question?
Sure.
I'd like to crack at that question also.
Yeah.
Tort reform, which my husband Hal yesterday said, I wish they would call it lawsuit reform. I practice defensive lawsuit tactics every day as a small business owner. I have 14 employees. We own a home inspection business. And I have to carry 4 different kinds of insurance in case we're sued. And I have a stable of 5 attorneys that I have to keep on retainer to perform everyday home inspections. This is absolutely crushing to our ability to make a profit. We are barely able to make a profit. Well, Wendy, what kind of insurance does a home inspector need? Because how would you be sued? Oh, let me count the ways. Professional liability insurance, which is sort of similar to malpractice insurance, that costs between $10,000 and $20,000 a year. And it goes up the more homes we inspect. That's a real incentive, isn't it? We have general liability insurance in case one of my inspectors is clumsy and breaks a Ming vase in someone's home. We have commercial auto insurance in case one of my trucks goes up on to a property and hurts that property. We have workers' compensation insurance. And oh, by the way, State Comp Fund lost our address for 9 months and we didn't get any bills, so they stopped us. So we said, well, we want to be insured, let us pay you, even though you lost the invoices. And they said, no, you've gone without for 6 months, you need to find your own, which will be double to triple the cost, and after 6 months, then come back and see us. These are just some of the down-in-the-weeds travails that I deal with every day, but it speaks to the need to reform and have lawsuit reform so that small business can perform.
Thank you, Wendy.
I saw Mr. O'Connor come up, and I think our time's been short, so I'll pass on tort reform if you want me to close.
I have one more question
Okay.
to you, and then everyone will have 2 minutes to do a closing.
Okay.
Question from the audience. How do you expect to get your Democrat counterparts to unify with your strategies for reducing the deficit?
Reducing the deficit.
Yes.
I think the deficit's not a Democrat or Republican problem. There are Democrats, Republicans, and independents on record saying this is a problem. You know, if we don't balance the budget, that's a problem. If we don't figure out how to deal with deficit spending, it's a problem. You know, a freshman congressman, they don't have a lot of power. Well, I think it takes the power of persuasion, it takes leadership, it takes getting those people who are on public record and saying, look, this is what we need to do. My job would be to get my arms around those people and make it happen. We've talked about this way too long. There's a sense of urgency that exists right now. A lot of politics out there, a lot of narratives being thrown around, but I think the single focus is going to be the deficit spending. So the freshman congressman, I will seek out those Democrats, fellow Republicans, and independents, and others who have publicly said, hey, let's fix this thing and make it happen.
Okay, thank you. And let's start with you with the closing and go this way in 2 minutes.
I won't talk about tort reform.
Okay?
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time this evening. You know, we could say this election is about the economy. It's really about all of us here, our family, our friends, our neighbors. How we decide to come together and move forward as Americans and deal with this crisis. Whether or not we believe that government has become too big, too costly, too ineffective. Or whether we believe that, as our founding fathers did, that government which governs best governs least. You know, we're all Arizonans who've faced crises before in our own history, our family's history. We look at those things head on, get shoulder to shoulder, get past them. That's in our nature. We're independent. We're very self-reliant people. You know, I'm proud that my family's roots in this community go back actually a couple hundred years, in Tempe, 150 years. I feel grateful that I was born and raised in this state. My wife and I raised our family in this state. I feel blessed that after 6 different tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, both my son and I made it back safely. I know how precious our liberty is, our freedom is. I know that it's worth fighting for. I know how to lead. I have the experience. I'm ready to serve Arizona Congress now. I appreciate your attention. I thank you for your time, and I ask for your support.
Thank you.
I'm a mother of 2 and a grandmother of 1. Service is in my DNA. I'm a 5th generation military officer, small business owner, and I feel as though we are losing our country, morally and economically. And those 2 things contribute to the demise of our national security, which, as I said before, I took an oath to defend. I'm a leader, I'm a trailblazer, and if you knew me well, you would know in my kitchen there's a list of Mom's rules. And those rules speak to responsibility, accountability, and follow through. And so when I am elected as your Congresswoman, Republican, Democrat, or Independent, I am there to serve you, to serve the constituent, and to do everything I can to protect this wonderful country of ours. My website is my name, Wendy Rogers, WENDY ROGERS, no D in Rogers for Democrat, wendyrogers.org. And I ask you to go there, I ask you to support me, and I ask you to donate, because that's how I can get my message out, and together we will take back our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, there's sure a lot of questions tonight I wish I'd had a chance to answer. It's tough to get it in. So I would just say this, if you get a chance to go on my website, I think I've got 4 YouTube videos on there that do explain a lot of the things with a lot more depth. I'm a solution guy. We talked about a lot of problems. There's going to be more problems down the road, and the only way we're going to fix our economy and get things back is we're all going to have to go through a little pain. But we're going to have the right solutions and the right leadership to get us through this, because I'm going to tell you something, if we don't all go through a little bit of pain, this ship's going to sink and we're all on it. Very, very important that you look at the candidates and find out who are the ones with the strengths in the areas we need. I've got a very successful past in the business world. You've heard some of my solutions tonight that I can take back there and get things done. Very, very important. The 2 areas that my strengths are in are the economy and healthcare, and those are 2 of the primary things that we have to address. Congress is broken. They have not done their job. Insanity in the business world is doing the same thing and expecting different results. If we send the same type of politicians back there that we've sent back in the past with the same stale ideas, and they're going to have a 5 or 6 year learning curve before they figure out what's going on, we're going to have the same issues. We need new blood. We need blood from the business world, that they understand how to do things right, how to bring the right ideas to the table, and how to implement them. I was on that boardroom of a $150 billion corporation, and I know how to sit in there, and I know how to negotiate, and I know how to have victories for the other side. I know which ones to give and which ones to take. I appreciate all of you coming here tonight. You're all very important to me, as is the whole state of Arizona and our entire country. Get the word out. I hope you all have a really happy 4th of July. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I opened up this evening explaining that I was centering my campaign on a defense of the morality of the free enterprise system. And I think that, fundamentally, I guess 6 of us up here, one of us is missing, I guess, are going to go to Washington, if you select any one of us, to generally go after the same issues, the structural problems that we see need to be fixed in Washington. But, because I think that this election is about something a lot more fundamental than those structural problems, I believe firmly that we're at this crossroads where we're either going to be a social democracy, as I alluded to early, or a free enterprise system. And if we don't fight the big message on that level, we're going to lose the aspirational nature of our country. And this election, this district in particular, is not a giveaway to Republicans by any stretch of the imagination. It is going to be a fight for us in the general. And so I would submit to you, as you look at the candidates up here and you look at our records and what we've done, I don't think that anybody needs to vote for me because I served in the CIA or because I'm a woman or because I'm Hispanic. But I can tell you that the Democrat machine is running around this district, and they're micro-targeting, and they're going after women, and they're going after Hispanics, and we need to beat them at their own game. And part of the reason why I felt compelled to jump in this race is because, as someone of Mexican descent, I see so many people who are Mexican American in this state who have been convinced by the left that the free enterprise system, that the American dream is not for them, that it's somehow closed off to them. And I think this is the time when we need to start bringing people like me out to disavow them of that, because if we don't, that growing demographic will be lost, and we need to bring them back into the fold, because fundamentally Hispanics are conservatives and they are aspirational, and they're dedicated to free enterprise the way we are. But we need to get that voice out there, and I'm someone uniquely qualified up here to do that. And I think that that's a very compelling reason to select me, on top of the fact, and most importantly, because I am a true free market conservative, and I will go to Washington and fight for pro-growth principles because I believe and know that that's what's best for our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leah.
How many folks live in CD9 in the audience here? Maybe a third. You know, this district is winnable. Here we sit in a district that's 31% Democrat, 33% Republican, and 35% Independent. More of those independents have leaned Republican historically. Our country is facing a true fiscal and constitutional crisis. I've knocked on over 10, well, I can't say my campaign has knocked on over 10,000 doors so far. We've made over 5,000 phone calls. We've been at this since January. It's going to take a conservative Republican in this race who can defeat the liberal Democrats that are running, and don't be fooled, all three of them are liberal Democrats. To give you an idea of where the other side of the aisle is coming from, one question we did not get to address tonight was energy. We were asked in a forum a few weeks ago how we felt about renewable sources of energy and where we stood on the issue of America's energy independence. One of my Democrat opponents answered with, I think algae might be the answer. So now I'm going to ask another question. Whose car in here runs on anything other than gasoline? Exactly. This is a real problem we have in our country. The left is going to do everything they can to appeal to the emotional vote in this district. They're going to try to do anything they can to win this district. We need to nominate a candidate who has the machine, who has the staff, who has the actual district down by design, who can go out and win. A candidate who talks about solutions. You know, we got to answer 2 questions up here tonight. It wasn't nearly enough. Ideas like ending the practice of baseline budgeting in our federal government. Stop the hemorrhaging of money. Obama tax increases. I'm not going to call them the Bush tax cuts anymore. Now they're the Obama tax increases. Ending the Obama tax increases that just took place. Repealing Obamacare. Surgically removing that bill from the federal docket. Getting government out of the way and allowing businesses to flourish and our private sector to grow, which will increase revenue in this country and create jobs. It was an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you, Jeff. Sorry. And didn't you run for state house a few years ago? I'm the only non-politician with Lisa. But anyway, it was a privilege to be here. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'll just really start by saying that we need to elect someone who can win. And I was in Mesa last Saturday, and one of our Democratic opponents, who shall remain nameless, he came up to me and he goes, you know, out of all the candidates, you are the one person that I do not want to face. And he doesn't want to face me because of one reason, because he knows that I will win. And, you know, this election is not about anything but freedom. It's about bringing and restoring the greatness of America. President Ronald Reagan, he said the best. He said that we are a nation with the government, not the other way around. And we must come back to those fundamental principles. And I am running, like I said a little bit earlier, I am running because I have an 18-year-old son, and I want him to have that same American dream. We must restore the American dream. I have great endorsements, but endorsements, they don't win elections. But I've been endorsed by Jerry Colangelo, Ken Kendrick, Eric Brown, Jim Waring, Michelle Reagan, a lot of people who believe that I can get the job done. And I promise you I will. But there's one endorsement that I'd like to read to you that is probably the most special one to me. And my colleagues on the dais here, they're probably sick and tired of hearing it. And what a great crowd we have here. We are so blessed to have, you know, great qualified folks up here. But the letter goes this. It says, Dear Vernon, I hope this helps, because please keep my assistant in the loop in how your race is going. Good luck. I am proud of you. He said, Vernon Parker is a good man who served honorably in my administration. Vernon is a leader who demonstrates conservative values, love for country, and commitment to excellence in all that he has done. His life is the American dream. The newly created 9th District is a good fit for Vernon. The people of Arizona would be lucky to have Vernon as their representative. I have every confidence that he will serve them well, as he did in my administration. I encourage you to vote for Vernon Parker. All the best, George H.W. Bush. And presidents do not get involved in primary elections. And this president has chosen to endorse me, but I want your endorsement. I promise you that I will work to restore the greatness of this country and to restore the American dream. Thank you.
Yes.